What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today we are going to be updating one of our older videos, the node and workers whole mini map. I'm going to be talking about all the different nodes that I changed and what's new. So originally I was like, oh, I'm not going to make any more videos of this for a while because, you know, after like 500 you just kind of run out of things until a major change happens, which that happened. And if you have no idea, basically last week Prolibus changed the node values. Like, for example, some nodes cost more CP contribution points and they lowered that number. They also changed some of the production and materials you get on various nodes. So I'll leave a link in the description to the patch notes from the NA server, and I assume they are all live on every server now, but you can see what's changed. And I've changed a few things around. So yeah, we have 522 contribution points. I'll try to make this easy if I can, but it's going to be a lot of information, especially if you're a new player. But I just want to talk about some like notable things to change. So like originally, if you see this map, you're probably overwhelmed, especially as a new player. So the way I could try to make this easier is we're going to look at it like this. Hopefully it doesn't look as overwhelming. And that's cool. It actually shows you all of these now. So anyway, we're going to go region by region, and I'm just going to talk about some of the notable things. My recommendations for all of you is get the nodes that you think will be a bottleneck for your, let's say cooking, alchemy, and whatever you're doing. So you could copy someone else's, but it's probably better to focus on what you enjoy doing and what you need it to make. So anyway, if you are only interested in silver, let's talk about it. So saps went up with the whole gathering thing last month. So saps are generally higher, timbers probably a little bit, but generally things that I think are important to increase your contribution point total is things like chicken meat, because you could just turn it into grilled bird meat, feed your workers and everything. You'll need that infinitely until the end of BDO. So chicken meat, eggs, very high value nodes. There's another one over here. And then like potatoes and everything, wheat, always good too. Same thing, but different items. In Velia, a lot of the materials that I think are important are the iron ores and copper. You may not think you need it, because you're probably like, oh, I have millions of them. If you ever decide to go for alchemy stones in the future, you do need the ingots and everything. Admittedly, it's not that many, like 2,000 a week, but it does add up, and you'd rather have it now than later. So yeah, ores, chicken meat, eggs, various timbers. I found that personally, like if you are looking at timbers and everything, usually the things that give like saps along with it are the more expensive ones. If you do a lot of alchemy, you're probably using spirit leaves and everything, and a lot of the stuff that you don't really want to gather yourself, you want to have it on nodes. So over here, the ores, more ores, and these are personal for alchemy. Recently, I invested into these two because ash sap is very expensive. They're generally always sold out, and they are max price, which, the price from 21,000 to 50,000 nowadays is a huge jump, and you need two of them are very important. Okay, going down into Serendia, we have a lot of timbers, and so if you look at it, there's a lot of trees and, different ores and everything. There's water. So generally the important nodes I would pick are probably the few things that people probably won't see by default. So if you look at this one, you'll see an excavation node where it's like gold, trace of nature. Trace of nature will forever be used by every alchemist. And if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I don't see it, all you have to do is invest in a node, and then there were some where you had to talk to the NPC and invest some energy into it. I don't know if it's still the same because I've done this years ago, but essentially, you just invest in a node nowadays, and maybe some of the older nodes still have that and the newer ones don't. but Trace of Nature, always an expensive one. More ores, generally for that one. And Powder of Darkness is very nice. The unique one for Serendia is probably the cooking honey. It's not as valuable as it used to be, but you know, you probably will still use it. And if you do any sort of cooking, aside from that, it's just like wheats and pumpkins if you do any cooking. Otherwise, these are not really particularly high value, but if you value your contribution points, then you probably use a lot of these. So going down into Glish, this one got changed recently because these used to be a 5 contribution point connection for each of them. So it's like 3 to connect it, and then each of these 2 nodes are 5. I remember that because I was like, ooh, is this worth it? And now they lowered it. So birch sap, timbers, and planks are always high value. Pine is a little bit less value, but if you need it, you need it. Going down in here, just more timbers. Excavation node over here. Make sure to get that one. Platinum ore is very valuable. More ores if you need it. And yeah, that's really about it. So basically a lot of ores in this area. Going down into the Calpheon area, this one kind of gets changed a lot depending on if I need contribution points. I'll take things out of here because it's like they're nice to have, but they're not super important. But down in Keplan, we have the connection all the way to the cave right here, Plutoni Cave, because I value coal a lot, and it's one of those things where the only real way to get it is by nodes. You can go more or less gather, but it's kind of annoying. So I'd rather just have a node connecting it, and then I never have to think about it again. So Keplan to Plutoni Cave, and then to Marnie's lab over here for a spirit leaf, more ores and more coal. So this one's a coal node over here, and same with this one. Connecting from Northern Wheat Plantation down here, we have Ores Pass for the Cedar Timber and Monk's Branch. Anyone that does alchemy, or even sailing and bartering, like the bartering part, Monk's Branch is very expensive, always sold out. So this is a very high value node. More ores, timbers, and just like various things I personally use. Over here for the excavation with platinum and trace of nature, very high node. Then connecting to Calpheon, I just have Quint Hill for lead and birch timber. So that's cool over there. Now this one over here is connected to Port Epheria, and you're probably like, why are these important? This is because I kind of ran out of things to get, which, you know, I could change it. But for anyone who is an OG player and you know what to do with these like dried fish, I believe these dried fish actually went up in price with the change like a month ago. So for all of you who have just been collecting all of these for the years, these are actually worth a lot more now. So yeah, these are high value in my opinion, and they're only 1 contribution point each. However, the cycle from like the nodes is like 4 or 5 hours or something pretty insane. So in terms of silver, it's not really that great, but these are used for a lot of stuff if you know what you're doing with it. I personally use it to make good feed for your feeding my pets over time. And well, you could just buy it off the market. Let me just see. You could buy it off the NPC as well, but I generally like the good feed over here. I generally just make a bunch of these and then, you know, stock up for a couple months and I'm good, and I do it again. Organic feed is a little bit more, but, you know, I just do good feed. It's fine. So, okay. Now, going down from Calpheon, we talked about Port Epheria. We're going down into the Kamasylvia area. So, for all of you wondering, actually, going down here, we're talking about Trent and Behr. These are very good spots for gathering because there's a lot of trees. This is basically a good spot for all gathering types. Lumbering, saps, meats. There's some for herb gathering, but there's better spots for that. Okay, so Behr connection. I have, well, actually they're all connected to Trent because I don't think Behr has any workers itself. So all of these are connected Trent wide. Cedar timber is very high value. Cedar sap is one of those things that people don't enjoy gathering, so it's good to have it on a node. More cedar timbers, leaves, fir timbers, bloody tree knots. These are like high value timbers in my opinion. And then down connecting here, we have green crystals. We'll talk about the crystals in a little bit, but it's one of those things that I use. I don't know if a lot of other people use it, but I'll talk about it later. Fir sap is always pretty expensive. Always get the excavation if you can. Just Trace of Nature is always very expensive across the board. All right, going down into Kamasylvia region and Grana. So these are new. They changed the materials you can add for Loony Cabin and Weenie Cabin. You could get excavation nodes for Trace of Nature over here. These are definitely worth investing into. These are new as of last week. Like the node is not new. The materials you get with the workers are new. So after that, Mirror Mock Ruins is a Trace of Nature node. And so like basically we have 3 excavations over here. Another excavation in Tooth Fairy Forest, and then going up into Star's End, I personally have another excavation and then copper. So yeah, I would say these are kind of optional because it is a very high investment just connecting up. Star's End is a very good investment if to get to level 20, the node itself. If you are an end game grinder, Star's End is one of the top 3 grind spots in the game. So if you're at that point, it might be worth investing into regardless. So Grana has 5 connections to excavation nodes, and I have it up to Star's End for the grind and node investment. Going down into Odraxia, I don't think anything really changed in this one. So as we talked about before, Thornwood timbers and saps are very high value in my opinion. Chicken meat, I should probably invest in that one. I'm gonna use that 1 contribution point. We'll add that later. So I should probably do that. Do I have an Odraxia node? I'll figure that out. Either way. Yeah, double chicken meat, double eggs. We talked about that from the Balenos region. Olin's Valley, nickel and mithril, pretty high value ore nodes. I'm convinced the mithril thing in this node is like, it's not as high as the others. So it's probably still worth investing into. It's just like you don't get as much here than other nodes, which we'll talk about. Down into Crypt of Resting Thoughts to Thornwood, we want more Thornwood timbers. Excavation for Trace of Nature. And then going up into this spot right here, I believe that is connected to Duvencrune. So that's everything from Odraxia. Duvencrune, we have an interesting connection. We have a few changes, but this one we have double mithril nodes, a zinc and knock ore for alchemy stones. It's just nice to have. And then up here we have more knock ore, optional one in my opinion. These 2 are kind of expensive nodes, but we could change that out later. Mithril and Trace of Nature, another excavation. So we have 3 of them here. If you do need any mithril, it's probably better to get it from Duvencrune because there's multiple, and I feel like these nodes actually work compared to the Odraxia one. So yeah, if you need it, it's over here. A bunch of Thuja, because that one's annoying to get, and God, does no one ever want to gather that one, so it's good to have the node on early. So something that changed with last week's patch, Gervish Mountain has more Thuja sap, timbers, and everything. I would highly recommend investing into this one, simply because Thuja sap is annoying to gather and it's very important to use. Same with this one over here, Thuja sap, timbers. I think mostly you need the saps, but these aren't like low value nodes either, but these are very high. So I have 3 of them connected. Okay, so going down into Eilton, Mountain of Eternal Winter. Nothing changed here from last time. Invest in Jade Starlight Forest because Rough Jade is expensive, and then Snowfield Cedar Sap is a high value node. Let's look at that one real quick. So high value timber, high value sap, definitely worth investing. And if you're going for the Labresca helmet, you're probably grinding here. This is a good mid-game grind spot as well, so I invested this one into level 20 as well. Monk's Branch, if you need it, you need it. Excavation Node, always good. All right, going down into Ulukita. Nothing really changed here. So basically what we have is more iron, copper nodes, and some crystals. We'll talk about that once we get to Morning Light. And then Tungrad Ruins has a double excavation. You know how we're picking a lot of excavations? These are high value, by the way. Down in Ezerheed Highlands and the Wilds over here, down by Valendir. This one is Birch Sap, which I personally use, but I don't think this is an important one. Ezerheed Highland has Cedar Sap and then White Cedar Sap. These timbers are pretty high value. So that's about it. Nothing changed here from last time. All right, going down into Tarif. Let me show you how I split this. So this is Tarif. This is Altinova. You see this line right here going down from like Omar Cave and all the way down. I'm pretty sure everything left of this is connected to Tarif, and then anything right of this one is connected to Altinova. I'm pretty sure. So with that said, a lot of these nodes are personal picks because I use the materials, but not all of them are super important. So with that said, kind of like this one, how I've Tiger Mushrooms, it's literally for my alchemy stuff that I need. Not important at all. The important ones I would recommend for you guys are probably up in here, White Cedar Timber and Maple Sap and all this stuff. The saps and timbers are always nice, but these are high value connection nodes from Tarif. Everything else, excavation over here. This one's a high value one for zinc and more crystals. And then Omar Cave is more ores, and then just more stuff that I personally have. So either way, excavation, timbers, saps from here. Connecting to Altinova, we have zinc and iron, high value. And right now we have double Trace of Natures from PLFA. I believe these are new from this week's patch. And aside from that, we just have a lot of Elder Tree stuff that I use for crates. If you don't care about trading, you don't need them. But let me see. Yeah, it's like I have 1.1 million Elder Tree timbers. These aren't like, they're not the worst, but if you were trying to push a Guru 50 processing, that's one way. And I'm almost there, 49. But yeah, it's one of those things where I used to have like 4 million timbers, and then I kind of processed them over like the course of a month casually, and now we're at 1.1 million. So there's that. Important one to note is PLFA, which is a new one. Well, once again, when I say new, I mean they just changed it as of last week's patch. Connecting from Sandgrain Bazaar is I have copper and opal because these are ones that I just don't like gathering myself. Down in Pilgrim's Haven, we have more iron, Powder of Darkness, and rough black crystals. So yeah, we just have those connected. Valencia and Arehaza. So Valencia City, I have date palm and those freaky things. Once again, if you need it, you need it. If you don't, it's not worth it for you. Down here we have silk thread and more date palms. So it's one of those where it's not the highest value, but if you need it is the exclusive thing we should get. Silk thread is pretty important. I personally use that, and we'll talk about why in a few minutes. All right, so Arehaza, I have a connection all the way up into basically near Sulfur. I had this connected when I was going for the archaeologist map, and then I took out a few because I figured there's only a certain thing. So mostly I want titanium ore and vanadium ore, a bunch of crystals as well. Same with this one, all the different crystals. And so if you look at this, this is what it looks like. So if you don't know what all these do, these make Monos accessories. That has more uses than that. But back in the day when Monos accessories were, high value, it was cheaper to make them yourself than to buy it off the market. And that's what I was doing. And nowadays, like looking at the price of them, they're still pretty decently valued. It's just like I personally value some of these other things instead. They're still decent value. All right, so I think I covered everything on the mainland. Next, we're going to talk about stuff that I think is important over here in Morning Light. So the way we're going to break it up is into Morning Light 1 and Part 2. So basically, if you've been playing for a while, you know, down from the village over here, so if you basically take a line from here, everything on the right of this is Land in the Morning Light 1. This is Land in the Morning Light Part 2, according to Pearl Abyss anyway. So, how do we do this? In the village, this is where I just have all the crystals and stuff. You want to invest in basically all the nodes that can give you like forest crystals, decimation crystals, maybe some bitterness, but that's more of an end game thing. And then all the harmony crystals if you are a newer player, investing into the Hooms and Macalods. Those are very good, so you might want to get these early on as soon as possible. These are the nodes. If you just look at them, they're like excavation. These are just high value nodes. They're not really, you don't get the crystals as commonly, but like you get a bunch of other goodies as well. So I personally think outside of, you know, anything that gives like these crystals of darkness, bitterness, and everything, a lot of these are kind of personal preference, so that's about it. Excavation down here. Let's see. All right, so let's talk about why I think all the crystals that we were talking about are important. So if you've ever done royal workshops, let me just show you how they work. You see them, this is what you need. Let me explain this as quick as possible. You take outside materials like the crystals and various whatever they require, right? And then you put those on the green workers, right? Like the green offices. You take your materials from the green ones, you can get exclusive ones like these, and then you use the exclusive materials plus outside materials, and then you put them on yellow, which gives the ones you could do for trading and turn-ins for silver. Is it that important? Not particularly, but I mean, it's like it's something to have on every now and then. So I'll show you how it works. Like you see the outside materials is the Powder of Rifts, and then in like exclusive is that one. So then let's say you want to do that one. You change the workshop to this one. You pick the fan. You have the materials. You hit start work. Let me start work. There we go. And then you set it and you just forget about it for a couple of months. So why is the crystals important? I have a bunch of these over here because these are what we call the outside materials, the things you can buy off the central market. And then you just use kind of all of these to turn it into the exclusive materials, which are these that you can only get through the royal workshops, and a bunch of all the crystals that we'll use probably eventually. And then once they make the final product, you get these things like the packages, which have a silver value, and then you could do trading and then turn that in for silver if it's all connected and everything. It's not a lot of silver. It's kind of one of those things where you just set it and then check back 6 months later and you're like, ooh, a free like couple billion silver, and then it's like, it's a nice little payout every like twice a year every time you look at it. So either way, here in Morning Light Part 2, this is where all the notable nodes are. Basically any ores that are good, timbers that are high value, more zinc ore, very important. High value timbers over here, bunch of saps, and trace of nature excavations, and then everything on here is personal preference for crystals in a way. So that's about it. Going down into Edania. So this is Edania Part 1. We're probably Calpheon, or not Calpheon, Heidel Ball coming in July. We're probably going to get Region 2. Part 2 is down here. We can already see some stuff, right? Yeah, this is Part 2. Just wait till next month. All right, so a lot of these are not really that important. And the ones that I think are important, Ancient Ruins over here, because it gives Caprous Tree Timber and Caprous Tree Sap. These are exclusive to Edania, and these are the only nodes that give, you know, something unique. So I'd recommend doing that one over here. I also have an extra connection to this one. It's not really important. and then another connection over here for an excavation for more crystals and trace of nature, and then that's about it. So if you don't have a lot of contribution points, I would probably just go ancient ruins, and that's about it. I also have Great Red Spot as a this is the group grind spot, the Floodlands, and every now and then I grind with friends there. That's why I have invested. Otherwise, it's completely useless node, has nothing here. Most of these aren't useless. Ancient Ruins is probably the only one. And with part 2, if they add another town or something that's not the Sanctuary in like part 2, it'll probably be an easier connection to do it from part 2, but we just have to see and wait until then. So yeah, I believe that is all my nodes set up for every region. Basically, TLDR, timbers that are high value, saps are high value, things that increase your contribution points like chicken meat, wheat, pumpkin, barley, whatever, all those things. And then excavation nodes, you should get as many as you can. One thing I would recommend, this one is going to cost me about 10 contribution points. Connecting from Valencia all the way to Pilgrim's Sanctum Obedience. This one has, I believe, 2 excavation nodes right here. I just need the points to connect it from here, here, and going up into it. That's like 10 points, which I probably could mess around with that, but like getting contribution points is just a matter of time. So, yep, that's about it. That's my next goal. Connecting to Obedience and then getting 2 more traces. So when I'm like 532, I should probably have those done. But aside from that, the next time I'll do an update for this is whenever Prolibus makes a notable change, like adds more various nodes, or Edania Part 2 will probably bring some more nodes, and we'll take a look at that when that happens. So with that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. If you're new to your channel, hit that subscribe button. Would love to see you guys come back. Got a bunch of cool things to talk about next week with the upcoming patch. We got some new grind spots that are getting revamped, and yeah, a bunch of cool stuff. So I will see you tomorrow. Peace.